Imagine waking up in a world with no internet, no schools, no YouTube tutorials, not even electricity. Now ask yourself this: how would you learn to fix a cartwheel, stitch leather, brew medicine, or even make your own shoes? In the Ottoman Empire, survival didn't depend on Google. It depended on people. And at the center of this people-powered knowledge network was something powerful, something sacred: the usta-çırak system, the Master-Apprentice tradition. Today, we're diving deep into how the Ottomans built entire cities, ran workshops, cured illnesses, and passed down generation after generation of practical survival skills, all without a single volt of electricity. And the best part? Some of these methods are still doable at home. So by the end of this video, I want you asking yourself, could I learn like an Ottoman apprentice? Hit that like button, subscribe if you're into practical, old-world knowledge, and let's travel back to a time when knowledge was stored in people, not machines. So let's talk about the problem first. In today's world, we're incredibly dependent on devices and centralized education systems. You want to fix something? You Google it. You want to learn a trade? You go to a school, enroll in a program, use digital simulations. But what happens if all that disappears? What if the lights go out permanently? This is where the Ottoman way of teaching, the usta-çırak system, becomes incredibly relevant. In the Ottoman world, nearly every skill, from blacksmithing to cooking, from tailoring to medicine, was passed on through a strict, hands-on mentorship. A young person would enter a shop or a workshop, often as early as age 10, and become a çırak, an apprentice. Their usta, the master, was not just a boss. He was a mentor, a life coach, a craftsman, and a guardian of tradition. This wasn't just watch and learn. This was live and become. Let's look at 10 concrete examples of how this system worked and how these methods might still be used today. First, blacksmithing. An apprentice didn't start with metal. He started with coal. His job was to keep the fire going. For weeks, even months, he wouldn't touch a hammer, but he'd observe. He'd hear the rhythm of the usta's work. Eventually, he'd be allowed to shape nails, then horseshoes, then finally, blades. Today, you could replicate this with DIY metalworking in a garage, guided by someone with experience, even without a welding machine. Second, carpentry. Ottoman woodworkers built everything from spoons to mosques. The apprentice would spend months just sanding wood, learning grain directions, understanding types of trees. They'd memorize measurements by feel, not rulers. At home, this could look like joining a local woodworking group and learning by hand, not through CAD programs. Third, herbal medicine. The usta here was often a local attar, or a traditional healer. The apprentice learned how to recognize herbs by smell, how to dry them in shade, how to make teas, poultices, and ointments. The healing was as much about listening as prescribing. Can we do this today? Absolutely. Grow your own herbs, read old botanical texts, and test safe remedies. Fourth, shoemaking. Ottoman shoes were often hand-stitched leather, and the çırak would start by preparing thread from animal sinew. They would practice on scrap pieces before being trusted with customer orders. Today, hand-stitching is making a comeback in the DIY world. You can buy a kit and try it yourself. Fifth, calligraphy. Learning to write beautifully was considered an art form, and apprentices practiced by drawing lines for weeks. Ink was prepared manually. Paper had to be handled delicately. While we type everything now, the discipline and motor skills involved here are amazing for focus and creativity. Sixth, cooking. In palace kitchens or in village homes, apprentices learned flavor through repetition. They weren't given recipes. They watched, smelled, tasted, and remembered. You can bring this spirit back by cooking traditional recipes without timers, just your senses. Seventh, ceramics. Pottery involved shaping, drying, and firing, but also understanding clay's personality. Apprentices learned through mistakes, by feeling moisture levels with bare hands. You can do this today at home with basic tools and even backyard kilns. Eighth, tailoring. Apprentices started by threading needles, fixing buttons, then learned to cut, then to measure without tape, just by eye. They'd eventually understand body posture and fabric flow. You can revive this through upcycling clothes or basic hand-sewing kits. Ninth, masonry. Building walls, arches, fountains, not with blueprints, but with experience. Apprentices learned how stone behaves, how to mix lime mortar by feel. They didn't measure strength, they sensed it. This tactile intelligence is rare today, but still learnable. And 10th, storytelling and teaching. Yes, being a teacher was also a craft. The apprentice sat, listened, memorized, and one day retold the story or lesson. Today, this is almost lost. We can bring it back through oral storytelling in families, communities, even YouTube channels like this one. So what's the power of this system? It's not just learning by doing. It's learning by immersing. You didn't clock in, take notes, pass a test, and leave. You became part of a living lineage. Every cut, every stitch, every hammer strike wasn't just practice, it was inheritance. You weren't just copying a task, you were absorbing centuries of technique, wisdom, and values that couldn't be Googled. In the usta-çırak world, knowledge was sacred because it was earned. You earned it with sore hands, sleepless nights, careful observation, and repetition. The tools you held had stories. The techniques you used carried fingerprints of generations past. And the beauty? No electricity, no certification, no institutional approval. Just dedication, curiosity, and trust. Compare that to now. We live in the age of fast learning. You can master leatherwork in a 10-minute TikTok. You can buy a 3D printer instead of learning how to carve. But what do you really learn? Watching is not knowing. Clicking is not crafting. True skill, the kind that sticks with you, the kind that can save you when things go dark, comes from experience, not exposure. This is why the Ottoman apprenticeship model still matters. It teaches us that we don't need to know everything. We just need to know how to learn, and more importantly, how to pass it on. In a world that might one day lose power, the most powerful thing left will be what's in your head and your hands. So what can you do today? Start simple. Ask your grandfather how he repaired things. Offer to help a neighbor who gardens. Volunteer at a local craft shop. Pick one thing, sewing, cooking, pottery, woodwork, and begin. Not on YouTube, not through an app, through doing, through failing, through repeating, through becoming. And when you're ready, teach someone else. Even if it's your kid, your sibling, or your friend. Be the usta you wish you had. Be part of a tradition that values skill over speed, patience over products, and people over platforms. Because let's be honest, when the batteries die, when the Wi-Fi fails, when the system crashes, the only thing left is what you remember and what you can do. So I want to hear from you. What is one skill you would want to learn the old-fashioned way? Would it be blacksmithing, weaving, bread making? Leave a comment. Let's bring back the guild spirit. Subscribe for more ancient survival techniques you can try today. Because in the end, knowledge is the most powerful tool we've ever had. And unlike electricity, it doesn't short out in a storm. Until next time, stay curious, stay capable, stay connected, not to machines but to people. And remember, you are the battery, you are the backup, you are the legacy.